3 months ago, I met a 34-year-old accountant who was making $68,000 a year and feeling completely trapped. Last week, he texted me a picture of his first $45,000 month running his own business. Same skills, same knowledge, same person. The only difference? He escaped the paycheck trap with exactly $40,000 and a plan I'm about to share with you. If you're tired of trading hours for dollars and ready to take control of your financial future, hit that like button, comment below with your current salary, and subscribe because what I'm about to show you could change your life in the next 12 months. Here's something that's going to shock you. Most people think they need hundreds of thousands of dollars to start a real business. They think they need massive loans, investors, or some trust fund to become an entrepreneur. That's complete garbage. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs I know, including myself, started with almost nothing, but there's a sweet spot, a magic number that gives you just enough capital to break free from the employee mindset forever. That number is $40,000. Why 40,000? Because it's enough money to be dangerous, but not so much money that you get stupid. When you have too little money, like 5 or 10,000, you can't really do anything meaningful. You're limited to tiny experiments that don't generate real income. But when you have too much money, like 100 or 200,000, you make expensive mistakes because you think money solves everything. $40,000 is the perfect amount to start a real business that can replace your salary within 12 to 18 months. It's enough to buy equipment, cover initial marketing costs, survive for a few months without income, and make the inevitable mistakes without going broke. But it's not so much that you waste it on fancy offices, expensive software, or hiring people you don't need yet. Let me tell you exactly how this works. The paycheck trap isn't really about money, it's about mindset. When you get a paycheck every 2 weeks, your brain gets trained to think in terms of hours and salaries. You think, I work 40 hours, I get paid X amount. If I want to make more money, I need to work more hours or find a job that pays more per hour. But that's employee thinking, not entrepreneur thinking. Entrepreneurs don't think about hours. They think about value creation. They don't think about salaries. They think about profit margins. They don't think about getting paid by someone else. They think about getting paid by customers who have problems they can solve. The problem is, most people can't make that mental shift while they're still dependent on their paycheck. As long as you need that job to pay your rent, you can't take the risks necessary to build something bigger. You can't quit to focus on your business full time. You can't turn down projects that don't fit your vision. You can't think like an entrepreneur because you're still thinking like an employee. But $40,000 changes everything. It gives you what I call you money. Not enough to retire, but enough to take risks, enough to quit a job that's holding you back, enough to say no to clients who don't respect your value, enough to invest in yourself instead of just surviving. Here's how most people waste this opportunity. They take their $40,000 and they try to start some complicated business in an industry they don't understand. They think they need to invent something revolutionary or disrupt some massive market, so they spend months researching, planning, building, and by the time they're ready to launch, they've burned through most of their money and they have no customers. That's backwards. The right way to use $40,000 is to start with what you already know and scale it quickly. Take the skills you've been giving away to an employer and start selling them directly to customers who need those skills. Let me give you some examples. If you're an accountant, don't try to start the next TurboTax. Start an accounting practice that serves small businesses in your area. If you're in marketing, don't try to build some software platform. Start a marketing agency that helps local businesses get more customers. If you're in sales, don't try to invent some revolutionary product. Start a consulting business that teaches other companies how to sell better. The beauty of this approach is that you already have the expertise. You already understand the problems. You already know how to solve them. You just need to package your knowledge in a way that customers will pay for instead of giving it away to an employer who pays you a fraction of what it's worth. Here's what that 34-year-old accountant did that I mentioned at the beginning. He realized that small businesses in his area were struggling with bookkeeping and tax planning. These business owners were smart people, but they didn't understand accounting, and they were making expensive mistakes. So he quit his job and started offering bookkeeping and tax planning services to small businesses. He used his $40,000 to cover his living expenses for 6 months, buy some basic software, and do some local advertising. Within 3 months, he had 12 clients paying him between $1,500 and $3,000 per month each. Do the math. 12 clients at an average of $2,000 per month is $24,000 per month in revenue. Even after expenses, he was making more in 1 month than he used to make in 4 months at his accounting job. And here's the best part. He was working fewer hours because he wasn't stuck in meetings and corporate bureaucracy all day. But here's what made the difference. He didn't try to reinvent accounting. He didn't try to build some fancy software or create some revolutionary new service. He just took the exact same skills he had been using for his employer and started selling them directly to customers who needed them. That's the power of the $40,000 escape plan. You're not trying to get rich quick. You're not trying to build the next unicorn startup. You're just trying to replace your salary by doing what you already know how to do, but for yourself instead of for someone else. And here's why this works so much better than trying to build a business while you're still employed. When you have a full-time job, you can only work on your business during nights and weekends. You're exhausted, you're distracted, you don't have the mental energy to really focus on building something great. But when you take that $40,000 leap, when you quit your job and commit fully to your business, everything changes. You have 8 hours a day to focus on finding customers, delivering value, and growing your business. You're not tired from working for someone else all day. You're not distracted by office politics and corporate nonsense. You can put all your energy into building something that belongs to you. This is why side hustles usually fail. People try to build businesses around their jobs instead of building businesses to replace their jobs. They treat their business like a hobby, and guess what? It performs like a hobby. Now, let me break down exactly how to allocate that $40,000 because this is where most people screw up. They either spend it too fast on things they don't need, or they're so scared of spending it that they never get started. Both approaches will keep you trapped. Here's how I would allocate $40,000 if I were starting over today. First, 6 months of living expenses. This is non-negotiable. If your monthly expenses are $4,000, then $24,000 of your $40,000 needs to be set aside for survival money. This gives you 6 months to get your business cash flow positive without having to panic about paying rent. Second, $5,000 for essential business setup. This includes basic equipment like a computer if you need one, software subscriptions, business registration, insurance, maybe a simple website. Don't get fancy here. You need the basics to operate professionally, but you don't need the best of everything. Third, $5,000 for marketing and customer acquisition. This is probably the most important $5,000 you'll spend because without customers, you don't have a business. You have an expensive hobby. But don't blow this on some fancy marketing agency or nationwide advertising campaign. Start local, start simple, start where you can track every dollar. Fourth, $6,000 for mistakes and unexpected expenses. Trust me, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to buy something you don't need, or invest in something that doesn't work, or underestimate how much something costs. Plan for it instead of being surprised by it. Now, here's the business model framework that works best with this budget. I call it the expertise arbitrage model. You take knowledge and skills that you have and you sell them to people who don't have them but need them. It's that simple. The key is to start with consulting or services first, not products. Why? Because service businesses have almost no startup costs. They generate cash flow immediately, and they teach you everything you need to know about your customers before you invest in creating products. Let me give you more examples of how this works in different industries. If you work in HR, you could start an HR consulting practice that helps small businesses with hiring, employee handbooks, and compliance issues. Small business owners know they need HR help, but they can't afford to hire a full-time HR person. They'll gladly pay you $2,000 to $5,000 per month to handle their HR needs. If you work in IT, you could start a technology consulting practice that helps small businesses with cybersecurity, data backup, and system optimization. Again, small business owners know they need this stuff, but they don't understand it and they can't afford a full-time IT department. If you work in operations, you could start a business efficiency consulting practice that helps companies streamline their processes, reduce waste, and improve productivity. Every business has operational inefficiencies, but most don't know how to fix them. The pattern here is simple. Find businesses that have problems you know how to solve, but they either don't have the expertise in-house or they don't want to hire someone full-time. Position yourself as the expert who can solve their specific problems for a fraction of what it would cost them to hire someone. But here's the critical part that most people miss. You can't be everything to everyone. You need to pick a specific type of customer and a specific type of problem. The riches are in the niches, as they say. For example, don't just be a marketing consultant. Be a marketing consultant who helps dental practices get more patients. Don't just be a business consultant. Be a business consultant who helps restaurants improve their profitability. Don't just be a technology consultant. Be a technology consultant who helps law firms protect client data. When you specialize like this, three amazing things happen. First, you can charge much higher prices because you're not just selling generic expertise, you're selling industry-specific solutions. Second, you can get referrals much easier because people know exactly what you do and who you help. Third, you can create systems and processes that work across multiple clients in the same industry. Here's how you find your first customers without spending a fortune on marketing. Start with your network. Make a list of everyone you know who works in or owns a business in your target industry. Reach out to them and explain what you're doing. Don't try to sell them immediately. Just tell them about your new business and ask if they know anyone who might need your services. Next, join local business groups, chambers of commerce, and industry associations. Go to networking events. But don't go there to sell, go there to learn. Listen to what business owners are complaining about. Find out what problems they're struggling with. Position yourself as someone who understands their industry and can help solve their specific challenges. Third, create valuable content that demonstrates your expertise. Write articles, create videos, give free presentations, show people that you know what you're talking about before you ask them to pay you for it. This doesn't cost money, it just takes time and effort. Here's where most people get scared and give up. They think they need to have everything figured out before they start. They think they need a perfect business plan, a fancy website, professional marketing materials, the whole package. That's perfectionism, and perfectionism is the enemy of progress. You know what you need to start? A phone, a computer, and the confidence to tell someone you can solve their problem. That's it. Everything else is nice to have, but not necessary. I see this on Shark Tank all the time. Entrepreneurs come in with beautiful presentations and fancy prototypes, but when we ask them about sales, they haven't made any. They've spent months or years planning and preparing, but they've never actually tried to sell anything to anyone. Don't be that person. Start selling immediately, even if everything isn't perfect. Your first customers will teach you more about your business than any amount of planning ever will. And here's the secret. They don't expect you to be perfect either. They just want their problem solved. But here's what you absolutely cannot do. You cannot go back to the employee mindset once you've made this leap. When things get scary, and they will get scary, you cannot start thinking about getting another job. You have to push through the uncertainty and the fear because that's the only way you're going to build something real. The first few months are the hardest because you're not just building a business, you're rewiring your brain to think like an entrepreneur instead of an employee. Every day you're going to wake up without someone telling you what to do. Every week you're going to have to figure out how to pay yourself instead of waiting for someone else to pay you. This is why most people fail in the first 6 months. It's not because their business idea was bad, it's because they couldn't handle the psychological transition from employee to entrepreneur. The uncertainty, the responsibility, the fact that everything depends on you, it's overwhelming if you're not prepared for it. But here's how you survive that transition. Every single day, do 3 things. Contact one potential customer, deliver value to one existing customer, learn one new thing about your industry. That's it. 3 simple actions that keep you moving forward, even when you don't feel like you know what you're doing. Now, here are the 3 biggest mistakes that will destroy your $40,000 escape plan. First mistake, trying to scale too fast. You get a couple of clients and immediately start thinking about hiring employees, renting office space, buying expensive equipment. Stop. Your goal is to replace your salary first, scale later. Second mistake, competing on price instead of value. When someone asks for a discount, your first instinct is to say yes because you're desperate for customers. But the moment you start competing on price, you've lost. Cheap customers are the worst customers. They complain the most, pay the slowest, and refer other cheap customers. Third mistake, not tracking your numbers. You need to know exactly how much it costs you to acquire a customer, how much profit you make per customer, and how long customers stay with you. If you don't know these numbers, you're flying blind and you'll run out of money before you figure out what went wrong. Here's what success looks like. Within 6 months, you should be generating enough monthly revenue to cover your basic living expenses. Within 12 months, you should be making more than your old salary. Within 18 months, you should have enough recurring revenue that you're not worried about next month's income. But here's the beautiful thing about escaping the paycheck trap. Once you've proven you can make money on your own, once you've built a business that generates consistent cash flow, you're never trapped again. Even if this business fails, even if you decide to do something completely different, you now have the confidence and skills to create income whenever you need it. You're no longer dependent on someone else's decision about whether you're worth promoting or whether your job should exist. You're not at the mercy of corporate layoffs or economic downturns. You control your own income, which means you control your own future. That accountant I told you about, he's now making more in 3 months than he used to make in a year. But more importantly, he's free. He works with clients he chooses, on projects he finds interesting, on a schedule he controls. He's building wealth instead of just earning income. And here's what really excites me about his story. He's not done. Now that he's proven he can build one successful business, he's starting to think about what's next. Maybe he licenses his systems to other accountants. Maybe he creates online courses teaching small business owners how to manage their own books. Maybe he acquires other accounting practices and builds a regional firm. The possibilities are endless when you're thinking like an entrepreneur instead of an employee. But none of that would have been possible if he hadn't taken that first leap with his $40,000. So here's my challenge for you. If you have $40,000 sitting in a savings account earning 1% interest, stop letting it rot there. If you don't have $40,000, start saving aggressively until you do. Cut every unnecessary expense, work extra hours, sell stuff you don't need. Treat building that $40,000 fund like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. And when you have that money, don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. The perfect moment doesn't exist. The perfect plan doesn't exist. What exists is the opportunity to bet on yourself instead of betting on someone else's business. The biggest risk isn't losing that $40,000. The biggest risk is spending the next 20 years wondering what would have happened if you had been brave enough to try. The biggest risk is retiring at 65 with nothing but Social Security and regret. You have everything you need to escape the paycheck trap. You have skills that people need. You have knowledge that people will pay for. You just need the courage to stop trading hours for dollars and start trading value for freedom. Drop a comment below and tell me what expertise you're going to turn into a business. And if this video gave you the clarity you needed to finally make that leap, hit that like button and subscribe, because I've got a lot more entrepreneurship reality checks coming your way. Remember, the only person who can free you from the paycheck trap is you. So what are you waiting for?